Hello, I'm Devin, and if you're anything like me, you've heard about Article 13, now renamed to Article 17, wherein everything is over. Twitch is doomed, YouTube is doomed, all content creator platforms are doomed, and really just life in general as an internet user and a power gamer and a person that consumes way too much Twitch content and YouTube content like me is over. So what is the truth? I was hearing this from everywhere. What is actually happening? I did something so crazy. I decided to do something so crazy in pursuit of the truth. I read the law. And I'm here to tell you about the law and what it actually means by going point by point through the law and discussing some of how copyright works within the context of any content creation or platform or ecosystem. So we're going to go point by point, and look, number 8 is going to amaze you. Okay, here we go. All right, so first let's establish a basis of how copyright works right now in the United States with something that's called DMCA. So DMCA is a Digital Media Copyright Amendment, I think, and basically what it means is, let's say that person A uploads content to a website. Okay, that's not theirs. Constituted as like any kind of music, or maybe like it's a video, like a movie or something. It's something that they didn't make. It's not original to them, okay? The company or person that owns that content can submit a DMCA request, which basically says, hey, that's not yours. I want it, and I want the money for it, maybe. Okay, the company has to legally get that request and then process it and then take down the offending material. And that's basically how it works, okay? There's a request you can submit. You can go to YouTube or Twitch or anybody. You can type submit a DMCA request to get this big form that says, hey, I've been copyright infringed on. This is the person that did it, and you can submit a request. And you can expect within a timely manner that request will be turned around and that content will be taken down. Now, this has a lot of problems with it, because a lot of you have heard about things like copyright trolls, where copyright trolls are groups of companies that will submit false DMCA complaints, and because the government won't do anything about it, the complaint will go through. The person whose content was actually legitimately theirs will get their content taken down, and all this is like really bad. So copyright has been a really, really hot issue for a long time in the whole ecosystem of the internet. And when Article 17 came out, it was real spooky. And a lot of words started getting thrown around, like upload filters, or okay, now the onus is going to be on YouTube and Twitch to be able to police all this content. And how are they going to do it with all the bad content that's out there that's not other people's? And like, how are streamers going to use music, and what's going to happen? Oh, it's just so crazy. All right. We're going to go point by point through this, and I'm going to make a case for you as to why Article 17 actually benefits content creators and is a little bit annoying for companies to implement, but overall is a good thing. It is a good thing that the lawmakers put this in, and I have no problems with this at all. And really, all of the fear and all of the craziness around this is like totally fabricated. Maybe, I don't know why, but we'll get into that later. Let's go point by point and read each law, okay? Quickly. So I've prepared an expert presentation for each number here. You'll see the corresponding number corresponds to the number in the article, okay? There's 10 of these, and we're going to go through all 10. So the first one is basically a premise establishing that there are content platforms like Twitch, like YouTube, and that they should get authorization from rights holders and communicate that in some way. It doesn't really say how it's going to be communicated, but it basically says, look, there are rights holders that have content. There are content platforms. You should probably get rights for that content, and that's on you, the platform, to do. Number 2 basically states that same thing applies, even if it's your users uploading the content, that you, the platform, you Google, you Twitch, you whatever, are liable for that thing, okay? And there's a little bit more like vagary in there, but we're just doing a really general overview, okay? Number 3 is addressing another article where there's a limitation of liability established in a previous article. This just doesn't matter. It just references back to something that was kind of covering for a previous thing that is no longer available. Our number 3 just doesn't matter. Now we get into number 4, and this is where the big controversy started, okay? So if no authorization is granted, so what happens if there isn't any authorization? What do you have to do? Online content sharing service providers shall be liable, okay? So YouTube and Twitch will actually be liable for the unauthorized acts of communication to the public, including making available to the public or copyrighted protected works or any subject matter, unless the service providers demonstrate that they have A, made best efforts to obtain an authorization, B, made in accordance with high industry standards of professional diligence, best efforts to ensure the unavailability of specific works and other subject matter for which the right holders have provided the service providers with, C, acted expeditiously upon receiving a sufficiently substantiated notice from the rights holders to disable access to or remove from their websites that notified works or other subject matter. What does this mean? It means if you don't get permission, the platform, right, Twitch or YouTube, has to make the best effort to disable access, which could be deleting a VOD or deleting the content or deleting the channel, and prevent future uploads, i.e. maybe ban the channel or warn them or something. Very important in number 4, which is the main meat of this article, that the interpretation of what constitutes best effort, as some people have said, like it's going to be upload filters, it's going to be AI that like automatically takes down your content. We'll go over in a little while why that's not going to happen. The best effort interpretation is up to the member states and the ECJ, right, the European Court of Justice, that dictates this. Individual member states may have different interpretations of what constitutes best effort. For a country like France that has a aggressive content law policy, best effort may be you have to completely ban the channel, or you may not be able to allow that content in any form. But for a more lax country like Finland, they may just say, if you post like a full-length movie, that constitutes it. But other than that, like we're kind of cool, right? It's really up to the interpretation of the individual member state. Let's keep going. Number 5, we will determine if you did number 4, if you actually like completed it and you did the right thing, by examining your audience, how many people saw it, the size of the actual service, so the size of the platform like Twitch or YouTube, and the type, and if we think it's cool or not, and if we like it or not, okay? Basically just kind of giving some power to the member states there to make that interpretation. Number 6 says there is an exception in place for people who make less than $10 million EU, have been around less than 3 years, or don't have more than 5 million users. So number 6 exists because they want to prevent unnecessary expenses from being accumulated on small startups who are trying to get into this space. So for example, like TikTok, for example, is now is huge. But at the time, if they had been below 5 million users or had been relatively new, and then they got slammed by DMCA requests that they had to answer, that could have been an unnecessary expense. So number 6 protects smaller companies from being applicable to this law. And then at some point when they pass on any of these metrics, they have to then be applicable to number 4. Okay, so number 7 is essentially a mirror of the United States fair use policy, which means that if I quote something, criticize it, review it, or I do a parody or a caricature or a pastiche, which is like an interpretation of its work, that doesn't actually lead to a violation of this law, okay? So if I go onto YouTube right now and I play an album from my favorite band, it hasn't given me permission to do that. That's potentially an infringement on this law. If I go onto YouTube and I sing the song while I play the album or criticize it, then that could be considered a review, could be considered a quotation, right? There's a ton of leeway, as there is in the United States, on this law, on this aspect of this law. There's a ton of different leeway that you can get from this. And a lot of different things constitute parody or caricature. Too many to get into for the purpose of this video. Number 8 is super important. Is actually really easy to read. The application of this article shall not lead to any general monitoring obligation, meaning that you do not need to install upload filters. You don't need to install automated machine learning. Don't install Skynet to review this kind of stuff. And let's go down to number 9, where we want to read a very specific part of this section that is, I think, is really neat. Okay. Member states shall provide that online sharing service providers, that's platforms, put in place effective and expeditious complaint and redress mechanisms that are available to users of the service in event of disputes of disabling access to removal of works or other subject matter uploaded by them. So you got to have a form that you can submit that says, hey, this is my content. That person can't use it. There should be a form for that. When right holders request to have access to their specific works or other subject matter disabled or works or other subject matter removed, they shall justify the reason. This is why I think that you shouldn't have that. Complaints submitted under this mechanism provided in the first subparagraph shall be processed without undue delay, and decisions to disable access or remove uploaded content shall be subject to human review. Ooh. That is why you have all of these tech companies up in arms, because that is going to be expensive. So if I, the right holder, submit a request to, it's not a DMCA in Europe, but it's basically a DMCA, I say, hey, that's not yours. That's mine. I made this, okay? If I submit that request, it needs to be reviewed by a human, and it needs to be reviewed expeditiously, relatively quickly. Probably means within 24 hours or less, probably faster. I mean that tech platforms, they need to employ a bunch of people that are going to review these and are going to be able to determine what's right and what's wrong. And they have to educate these people on that. So that's probably why you saw an insane amount of lobbying against this and why you've seen an insane amount of bad media coverage sponsored by corporations, because corporations are saying, hey, we don't want to expend that kind of money to do this. But a huge problem in the past with the DMCA system in the United States has been automated requests going through and knocking down channels, the so-called copyright troll that submit tons and tons of automated requests, which then get picked up by YouTube's algorithm and knock down videos of plenty of users that don't have that had their own content, were monetizing their own content in the first place, and now their content is unmonetizable or removed from YouTube, or they've got a copyright strike. There's anybody has read any number of million different problems. With human review, that at least goes down quite a bit, which is great. So that's good. That's a good thing. I think that it's going to increase the expenses on these companies, but the subject to human review thing is generally like a very good change, and it's something that I totally agree with. Okay, and then number 10 basically just says, yeah, we're going to talk about this. Okay, like great. We're going to have dialogue. We're going to do the best that we can to make this happen. We're going to talk about this, LOL. So let's go over 2 really big points of this law, okay? Number 1, ultimately, it's up to the member states and the European Court of Justice, or the European Justice Court, to determine what I like European Justice Court better, but it's Europe. Sometimes things are backwards. I don't know. Ultimately, it's up to the member states and the court to determine what constitutes best effort. That's going to be different by each member state. It's going to be different for France. It's going to be different for Finland. It's going to be different for Germany. Everyone's going to have different stuff. Hey, that's how it works on YouTube right now. If you've ever seen video is blocked in your country, that's because one country said that's not okay, and another country thinks that that's not okay either. It really should be that individual countries have their own definition of best effort. Makes a ton of sense to me. Seems fine. Human review is probably good. Point number 2, because most of the problems we have with the copyright system in America is due to this copyright troll and automated copyright problem, where companies will, as we just discussed, unfairly submit copyright complaints. The government won't enforce the perjury laws to get them to not do that. And as a result, you have a situation where tons of people are getting taken down who probably shouldn't be taken down. And it's just costing a lot of money on all sides. And it's just bad. Putting the human review element in there makes the entire process at least a little bit more formidable to vetting these people. We're still going to have problems of it, I think. Some humans are still going to fall for it. But assuming that they're trained in the right way, there will be a lot less instances of this. And a lot of companies won't do it just by virtue of the fact that the process won't be automated anymore. They'll just not do it. That behavior won't apply. And then I think the third point that I didn't write here that is really important is that the application of this article shall not lead to any generally monitored obligation. Meaning that, again, we're not going to see upload filters as a result of this. There's no obligation to build some kind of crazy advanced AI that shuts down all your videos or content creators. And if you are a small content creator, not only can you protect your rights easier, it also means that your rights as a content creator to use this content is probably at least the same. And if you are in violation of it, you will go through the same process that is currently implemented in DMCA, which means your channel might get taken down. You might get a warning. Best effort, again, doesn't change that. It's pretty much exactly the same as the American law. So what are the takeaways for this video at Article 17? Well, it's not a big deal. Everybody kind of just freaked out and then didn't read it. Nobody actually read it. They just read meta of it and thought that it was crazy. But nothing in here is, number one, any different from DMCA law. And number two, if anything, is a little bit better because it requires humans to use it, to review it. And has some kind of cool things in here like, okay, let's not create Skynets to destroy everything. Cool. So what will change for you as a content creator? Not much. You're still liable for the content. Your channel is still under threat if you put up content that isn't yours, but it will become a little bit better to determine what isn't yours and is yours based on human review. And if you're a user, what'll change for you? Probably not much. There is a chance that if a country goes super aggressive on the determination of best effort, so if France decides to go super on that, that Twitch will then decide to block that country from viewing streams, similar to how YouTube will block certain videos in countries, rather than comply with those laws. So Twitch or YouTube will do a cost versus benefit analysis on their side. And they'll say, how much is it going to cost us to comply with whatever this country defines as best efforts? And if they determine that that cost is higher than they want to pay, they may ban certain content. And that is absolutely the worst case scenario of this law, is that maybe everybody in France just gets shut off from Twitch or YouTube. I would say that is a pretty unlikely circumstance, as right now the way that applies is to individual channels instead of just like the entire platform as a whole. If the entire platform of YouTube or France or Twitch gets shut off in France, I think we'll see a lot more public unrest or something like that as a result of that. And I'm just guessing that that is something that probably won't exist and is kind of an unenforceable, unrealistic interpretation of this law. What will probably happen is that individual channels will be policed, and some best effort will constitute differently in other countries, but most likely will just be like business as usual for you as a user. I don't think you'll really notice anything that is going to be vastly different from your user experience. Another good note is that this law doesn't get implemented until 2020, or I think it's 2021, one of those two things. So there's going to be at least a couple of years to revise this and address problems that may come up with this. But yeah, overall, I think this is a whole lot of nothing. I think it is pretty good for content creators overall. And it is at least the same for users, or if not a little bit beneficial, because we're not going to, you'll probably have access to content. And there may be examples made by countries that have more lax systems to define what best effort is that may end up being better off and that other countries choose to adopt. So yeah, okay, that's it. All right. Everything is fine. Put out the fires, get your pitchforks, and put them down. It's okay. We read the law, and the law is fine. Everything's fine. And so that's my little part in this video by just like helping everybody understand that like you can just read the law, and it's not even that crazy, okay? And I'm going to put this link right here in the description of the video, right next to the link to my Twitch stream and my Discord if you want to join that and talk about this issue and tell me all the reasons why I'm wrong or whatever. And yeah, we're going to have that right there, and you can read it yourself. It's just pretty easy to read, like 10 articles, and you just go through it and kind of interpret it. It took me about 30 minutes, and with some discussion from my chat, my beautiful chat. Okay, so that's it. That's the video. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk, and we're done. If you like this video, like it, subscribe, whatever button that you can press to interact with me in some way would be a great button to press right about now. I'm Devin Nash, and this has been my video about Article 17. Thanks for coming out. See you again next time.